It's the Mike Francesa Podcast on the Bet Rivers Network.
Hello again, everybody, and welcome to the Mike Francesa Podcast on what is a very, very busy week. We will tackle the opening of the baseball season in this one, and you probably already know that the Yankee game has already been canceled because of the inclement weather that is assured on Thursday. So they will now open, hopefully, and the weather looks good for Friday. They will open Friday afternoon against the Red Sox. So don't head out to the stadium tomorrow. You probably wouldn't anyway because it's probably going to be raining when you step out tomorrow morning. But on this Wednesday, they've already early canceled the game, and it will be played on Friday afternoon. The Mets will attempt to open tomorrow in our nation's capital at 4 o'clock. So that looks so far to be the case as baseball will get underway tomorrow. Before I get to baseball and Bobby V, and I will close this podcast with the tradition of the over-unders. So those are coming. I will give you those at the end of the program. I have them ready. A word or two on the national championship game, which didn't let us down. Wild game. I told you I thought there'd be some runs back and forth. I picked the game 76-75 Kansas. Could have lost it late, as we know. It could have gone the other way from a points standpoint, but for the most part, you were shocked at half that it even became a game again, which it did very quickly. But that game changed on a couple of things, including some really freaky things that happened to the Carolina players. And I didn't like the way they handled the final 20 seconds, but they played very well and valiantly throughout the tournament and did a nice job of not getting that game, let that game get away from them when they got down 56-50 and had been stunned by Kansas so dramatically in the second half, just the way they had stunned Kansas at 22 up in the first half. Those two dramatic runs in a championship game, they didn't let the game get away. They fought, and they were very feisty. I would have liked to see Manick get some more shots. I thought the game hinged on an offensive rebound that McCormack got. He shot the ball, got the rebound back, and then made the basket at 121 that put Kansas ahead to stay 70-69. He then made another basket at 24 seconds left that put Kansas up 72-69, which turned out to be the final score. I was stunned. And I thought that offensive rebound, if Carolina, which rebounded so well, had corralled that rebound up one after the first McCormack miss, I think they would have won the game. That's how slight the Kansas win was. Now, we can talk about strategy late. There was a lot of it to discuss. The bottom line was Carolina won against UCLA and against Duke because Love shot them in past those opponents. The UCLA shots were stunning. They were so deep. The Duke shots were dramatic and clutch. He didn't do it in this game. He clearly was hurting when he took that weird step early in the second half. He had a nightmarish night. Give Kansas credit for that. They shut down the Carolina guards, who were 1 for 13 from three, and he was 5 for 24 for the game. That's the essence of the game. If Love has a decent shooting night, Carolina wins. Forget the runs. Forget both runs. Negate both runs and call it the tight game that it was at the end. And that's what that game was. It figured to be a tight game. How it got there was rather strange, but still, it figured to be a close game late, and it was. I also was stunned that Agbaji won the most outstanding player. I usually don't care about this stuff, but I don't understand how he won it. Not that I care, and he's going to be the pro. He's going to be, I think, a good pro. And he's the best prospect on the Kansas team, no question. There's not a lot of prospects on that team. But McCormack should have been the most outstanding player for the weekend. He had more points. He had 40 points and 19 rebounds to 33 points and 5 rebounds for Agbaji. And he made the 2 baskets that won the game. So I was stunned that he wasn't the most outstanding player. He had the most rebounds. He had the most points for the weekend. And he made the big baskets. I don't know why that was the case, but it was. But, hey, it's not really that important. Now we move to baseball. And finally, the start of this baseball season, which should be a fun one. I know the DeGrom injury, and listen, do not minimize it. He's going to miss probably at minimum a third of the season. It's a huge factor. Their over-under has dropped from 91.5 to 88. It's a huge factor. It could be even a much bigger factor if he doesn't play this year. You can't go out on the market and replace him. There's no way to replace him. His loss will be an incredible one and could cost the Mets dearly the entire season. So don't minimize it. But you don't want to throw a funeral for the Mets yet either because of it, because we don't know if he could come back and pitch very well, in the second half of the season or from June on. I don't think you'll see him before mid-June at the earliest. I would even say the All-Star break is probably more logical. But if they get him for the second half of the season and they're able to hold the fort until then they will be in very, very good shape because he obviously will have a lot of life, hope if it's healthy in that arm, having not pitched in the first half of the season. For the Yankees, there's a lot of puzzling questions that need to be answered. But most of the answers are on the team. That's the puzzling part for this team. A lot of things could go right. A lot of things could go wrong. The Yankees aren't going to win 80 games. I mean, they're going to win close to 90 games. I don't think they're going to win 98 games. The division's too tough. Going in, they're not the best team in the division. But with the moves they have the resources to make and with the people who were there are a lot of questions that can be answered inside that roster. And it's going to be very interesting to see if they can answer them. There is enough talent on that roster to have a big season. There is also a decent chance that that team is not going to be that good. It can go either way this season. Injuries, age in some spots. Obviously, some questions that have to be answered both in the bullpen and in the rotation. So it's going to be on both sides. For the Yanks and the Mets, it's going to be a very, very interesting year, both with promise and expectations and the belief that it could be a big season at Citi Field and a big season at Yankee Stadium. It could be. It also could be bitterly disappointing, and the first note that was sounded by the Mets was not a good one. It really wasn't. But no team is in a better position to go out and do what it's ever needed than the Mets are. We know that. Their owner has the deepest of the deep pockets, and he is very willing and able and wants very much to put a winning product on. In the worst way, wants to put a winning product on the field. I think for his own ego and I think for the fans. I think both. As we said, as we told you when we started this venture, we would use Bobby V for baseball season. You couldn't have a better baseball resource. We'll do a segment with Bobby on a lot of things. Baseball overall, Yankees and Mets, his thoughts on a lot of different things. And then we will close with our traditional over-unders, which I have ready for you to begin this season. So you've waited. You've worried whether there would be a season. You worried if this whole year was going to go down the drain. It hasn't. Hopefully the weather will begin to cooperate, because the weather the last couple of weeks in New York is why you want to be in Florida. I mean, the weather has just been dreadful. And it has already made its mark on opening day. But, hey, hopefully by the time we hit the middle of April here, we'll see some decent temperatures in the 60s to 70s and some sunshine, because, boy, the weather has been just absolutely abominable since mid-March, or really the last 3 weeks. But it doesn't do you any good to complain about it. We won't. Bobby V when we come back.
You're listening to the Mike Francesa Podcast on the Bet Rivers Network.
All right, the baseball season is upon us. You'll have to wait an extra day for the Yankees. If you haven't been made aware yet, the Yankees have already quickly, as they often do, postponed early when they see a very bad weather forecast. So the Yankees will not open until Friday afternoon at the stadium against the Red Sox. Very wise, because tomorrow is supposed to be very, very rainy in the metropolitan area. Anyway, on what is an opening day, and hopefully Friday will turn out to be a much better afternoon. Bobby V joins us as we start to take a look. And Bobby, let's start with the Yankees. You know, the Yankees have their typical team where you know they're going to be good. You know that the downside would be 86, 87. A good year would be up in the 94, 95 area. That would obviously get them into the postseason. But there's also a lot of question marks with this team, maybe more than we've had in recent years. What's your thoughts about the Yankees as we hit opening day?
Well, obviously, the big guys have got to be healthy and they have to perform, and especially Chapman. We've mentioned that before, but, they need to have Chapman as the lockdown closer that the Yankees are used to. And, of course, with Aaron Judge out there and playing in a contract situation, I think he has to be the MVP.
Do you think, clearly, you've already heard that Donaldson brings a little different personality to this team. Do you think that will be something noticeable, or do you think it's overrated?
I think it's overrated until he becomes, a guy that he was when he was trying to be an MVP of the league. If he can really perform, then people will take notice to what he says and what he does. But I think there are bigger stars and bigger lights that will be shined on this team, and I don't think he's going to be a major clog.
Do you like the utilization of LeMahieu? Do you think it detracts from his performance to ask him to be so much a player who has to do so many different jobs for this team to get his at-bats?
I think he's really comfortable moving around, but last year he wasn't comfortable at the plate. He was still barreling up a lot of balls. He can, he's a very good hitter. He just has to get those balls to fall in the gaps this year and do it early, so people think that he's the player that the Yankees need, who's that consistent hitter, the guy who gets the hits against the good pitchers and the tough spots, and they'll learn to lean on him if he's healthy and he's swinging the bat the way he can.
A lot of people wanted the Yankees to go get an Olsen or get a Freddie Freeman. They didn't do that. They decided to bring Rizzo back. What's your thoughts? You think he will perform well here? I mean, he's a guy who should be able to reach that lower deck. He knows how to put the ball in those seats. He's got that kind of swing. What's your thoughts about him here for a full season?
I think he needed a little adjustment time, and he got it last year. And I think he's settled into the community. He can reach those seats without trying. I think last year he was trying too much to, be a launch and pull hitter. I think he naturally takes about 75% of the pitches that are thrown to him, and he's able to pull them. And if he's forgotten at all, he'll be a very big player on that team.
What do you think about the pitching behind Cole in the starting rotation?
I think it's very suspect, and like so many teams in the major leagues, they have guys who have to prove themselves, have to get the starts under their belt where they're given that. and I laugh when I say this. They're given that strong 5 innings, to start the season, so that you can start relying on the guys that you're going with. Otherwise, they're gonna shuffle the deck, and they haven't been that active thus far. But I think they saw that last year Atlanta did so much at the halfway point to remake their team, and there's going to be plenty of teams this year that are going to throw in the towel in the halfway point, and the Yankees are going to be there to pick up the good players.
One thing I like is that, and we're talking with Bobby B about the Yankees, one thing I like is they put stability behind the plate. We don't have to live with the drama of Sanchez every day now, and also put stability defensively at short. I think that's a positive. Now, listen, Higgy, we know he can hit a home run. He had little brief stints when he hit home runs in the past. I don't care about how many he hit in the strings training. That doesn't interest me. But I think he will provide some stability, and they haven't had that. I mean, the Sanchez thing became like a night-to-night drama, which I think did hurt the team.
I think it hurt the team, too. It was unsettling watching it from afar. I'm sure it was unsettling when you had to watch it from the bench. And it's gone, and that stability isn't so much on the offensive side. It's more with the pitchers. With a short spring training, you need to be on lockstep with the catcher. The pitchers and catchers need to be ready to go on what to use and when to use it, and I think that he's the right man for the job.
It's a very, very tight division. Toronto, Yankees, Tampa, Red Sox. You never sell the Red Sox short. They have some terrific players. We know you never, ever sell Tampa short. We all know the talent that's on Toronto, and they pretty much have been, given the division by most people. How do you look at the four, and do you separate anybody in any way? Do you like anybody more than anybody else when you look at the four teams?
Well, I really do like Toronto's talent, like everyone else does. And as you talk about discounting things, you'd never discount or count the Yankees out. That's for sure. The Yankees are going to be there. I think it's going to depend on who really beats up on Baltimore. They're going to play 19 times in the division, and I think Baltimore is going to be that weak sister, and in order to separate yourself from the pack, because you're not going to dominate the other teams in your division, I think you need to dominate Baltimore.
I think that's, you can't not, and there's been times when the Yankees haven't, as a matter of fact. I mean, so that's been a big thing. How about Tampa? And especially, their new young stud who they're putting an incredible amount of pressure on. They really are. I mean, people are talking about him being the best player in the league. I mean, that's a lot to ask at such a young age.
Yeah, Yonder Franco's a terrific player, but we really have to take a step back and understand that Tampa is the best organization in baseball.
Very smart. Very smart.
Over the last 5 years have just proved that they can do it with less, and they do it continually. So I think when they say something about one of their players, I'm going to agree with them a lot more than I'm going to disagree.
Well, the amazing thing about them, Bobby, and you having had your career, have to look at this and just be so impressed like everybody else is. They take guys from other teams that they see something in, talent-wise, and then bring them in and turn them into great pitchers. I mean, they say this guy can do this. We can make this guy and make these changes. Their evaluation of other people's major league talent is unreal.
Yeah, they have a great blend of the analytical department and the field people, where they work together well, where they get information about a pitcher, and then they're able to apply it within a team and within the individual. And, that's what everyone's trying to do. They do it best, and I think that they're going to be there this year. They're going to be there every year because, once again, when you have the secret sauce and you have the magic formula, it continues to work until someone busts it, and I haven't seen anyone bust what they're doing.
And they get a lot of guys who throw hard. I mean, they have a lot of no-name pitchers who come in, and you say, "Who the heck is this guy?" And the next thing you see, he throws 3 scoreless innings. I mean, they have a lot of guys like that.
Yeah, their arms work, but again, that's the teaching aspect that they spend their money not on the top free agent. They spend their money on R&D, and their R&D of that biomechanical piece of the player's ability seems to work extremely well.
There are some, unbelievable talents in the division. I can't believe how good some of these young players are at a young age. I mean, you go down the list and you look at these guys, Rafael Davids in Boston. That guy is unbelievable. I mean, scary good. I mean, such an incredible, accomplished hitter. And, you look at him and then you look at Guerrero and you go down the list. I mean, there is some, and then you throw Judge in the mix and then throw in, obviously, Franco and guys like that. I mean, there is some incredible young talent, or just overall talent. Judge isn't young, but I mean, just some unbelievable players in the division.
Yes, Major League Baseball has the work cut out for them to promote and market these young players in a new and special way. I think that they can grab the imagination of an entire baseball nation if it's promoted right, because as you say, I mean, they are so good. Ohtani's starting for the Angels, who is the MVP, who's only 25 years old, who does things that no one else has done before, and you have the kid over in Washington, Soto, who can look at a pitch the way Ted Williams used to
unbelievable.
Look at a pitch. He has
great
one
eye,
of the greatest eyes, and
yes.
then one of the greatest outcome hitters that we've seen in a long time, and the list goes on. And I'd like to see Major League Baseball just pop them all in front of the public as often as possible. Not only their swings and their throws, but also their personalities, because a lot of these young guys are young, and that youngness, that youth, that exuberance, and that new way of doing things can really captivate, I think, the audience that needs to be captivated, because, people talk about our game being boring. They talk about it being too long. They talk about it being old and run down, and we have an opportunity with the young players to ignite the fandom.
Davis is scary. I mean, he had 6 homers and hit .370 and had a 1.5 OPS in the spring. Not that it matters, just shows you that he's on his game, ready to burst out. Ever since he hit that home run off Chapman, which kind of woke up everybody to him, I mean, which was like, who the heck is this guy? I mean, he is a scary good hitter. I mean, just, you talk about a guy who was going to, find someone who could replace Big Papi. I mean, there's a guy who can replace Big Papi. He's that kind of hitter.
Yeah, from the left side of the plate in Boston, he's able to use that wall. He's able to hit it over the wall. He's able to pull the ball, and he's a spectacular young player. That you have to think about almost having him not beat you. But again, Boston always comes up with a lineup that can score runs, and they'll do it again this year.
So right now, you would like Toronto to win the division?
Right now, I think Toronto is the talent favorite. I have a hard time, betting against both Tampa and the Yankees. I think that they, are there every year. So how could you say that the newcomers are going to do it until the newcomers do it? But they have Toronto. That is, they have that exciting talent that you want to see every night.
We're talking with Bobby Valentine, of course, on the Mike Francesa Podcast. All right, to the Mets. Now, here's the thing. You understand the mind of a veteran manager. The Mets have a good one in Buck, who we know very well. How much did Buck have to worry with the psychological hit that not having DeGrom means to that team coming out of the gate?
Well, they have to reinvent themselves a little because, wasn't only DeGrom. This is going to be a great 1-2 punch, the best in baseball. Look out for when Scherzer and DeGrom come into town, because you're going to be 0-2 and hope to salvage a game before the team leaves in their 3-game series. And, I know Scherzer's probably going to be back quicker than DeGrom, but they're actually starting the season without both of them, and they're going to not have Jacob for a while. This 4-week stuff is not.
No, you're lucky if he pitches by July.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, then he's pitching for, $400 million, and then he's pitching for, with that question of what is this problem, and will it reoccur during, a major league season? So, it's a very sketchy situation right now, and Buck has to recreate the image of who that team is going forward without, the best pitcher, if you will, in baseball, and the best veteran pitcher in baseball, as what they thought to be the 1-2 punch, and now it's a one let's see punch.
What does Buck bring to that team in your mind?
Well, he better bring stability. He better bring a feeling of calmness because there's already panic in the Met Nation, and it's not a fun place to be when the Met fans are restless, and he's got to make sure that there's a belief in the offense, and there's a belief in the bullpen, and there's a belief in the other starters, not only outside the walls of the clubhouse, but inside the walls of the clubhouse, that they have enough of offense, and that they have enough of defense, and they have enough of bullpen. And every manager is doing that. It's just coming in the way Buck has come in, with the expectations, with the ownership, with the great pitching that they were building this year on. He's got to rebuild it on the fly, the image of the team.
What do you like about this team right now? What would you be concerned about with this team right now?
Well, obviously, the starting pitching, is that question mark, and how they put together good arms in the bullpen, and the usage of those arms, because they haven't worked together before, I think is paramount. Most teams are going to go into the season short on starting pitching because of spring training. Is going to be that 15 to 30 pitch arsenal that you're going to get from many bullpen pitchers, and they have to come in at the right time and do the right job in order to keep panic away from the Met fandom.
We talked on the last podcast about the curse that has been the Mets with middle infielders coming from the American League in the past. They did it last year to another one in Lindor. Now, I was all over Lindor last year. He annoyed the heck out of me on so many different levels. But I'm not dumb enough to not realize that this guy has a world of talent. He's got a lot of power for a middle infielder. He can play the position really well. We know that. You see that. All right. I don't like some of his act, but let's be honest. He's loaded with talent. He's still only 28 years old. Playing in New York's a whole different animal. We all know that. Do you think gut, and it is only gut, do you think he bounces back and gives you the Lindor that Cleveland loved, or do you think he struggles again?
Well, I think that's an interesting situation that's related to DeGrom again. That spotlight was off of him. It was on Scherzer and DeGrom.
Yeah, good point.
And that they were going to lead the way, and now you're going to get the spotlight right back on him. So I hate to say someone with a contract like he has and a resume like he has, that the first month of the season is really important for him. But you know what? The first month of the season is really important for him.
Because they will. He will hear it. He will hear it every day if he doesn't get off to a fast start. They will have no patience with him. He has to turn that team around and turn those fans around where they don't question him anymore right away at 28. Because otherwise, they're going to start to think he's a bust, and then he'll be looking for the exit.
Oh, it won't be a pretty scene, but I think that his talent's going to rise to the place that it needs to be. And, because the spotlight was off of him all spring, I think that he was able to relax and play his game. Everything that I've seen looks like he's a different player than he was at the beginning of last year, and that kind of relaxed, talented player is exactly what the Mets need from him.
Can you rely on Alonso in your mind to be a legitimate 265, 35, 110 guy?
Yeah, I think his power factor is one that everyone has to deal with, and he's going to launch the ball 30 to 40 times, I think, without a problem. And he's going to hit in the middle of the lineup and be a very credible player.
All right, you got the Braves. You got the Phillies, who people feel are improved. All right, you got those three especially in the division. Washington's bad. Marlins are a little better with better arms. They're moving in the right direction. Washington's built around one brilliant player who we already noted. What's your thoughts on the division?
Well, I think it's up for grabs. Even though the champions are Atlanta, and they've been a thorn in the Mets side for as long as I can remember.
A long time.
A thorn in my side.
Long time.
When I was in that city, so they still have to get Acuna back. They have to fill that void of Freddie Freeman. They have to make sure that their two young starters come back and they come back healthy. So they have as many question marks as the Mets do. So the division is up for grabs. I think that everyone's favoring the Braves, but I see the Mets being there right at the end, and maybe even taking the division away from them.
We know how good Freeman was. He killed the Mets his whole life. But I'll tell you something. This is a player. If there's an unsung player in baseball, they stole him in this Olsen. This guy is unbelievable. I mean, no one ever saw him. We know that. He's buried on the West Coast on a team no one watches. But let's be honest. Defensively, offensively, the guy, when people see him, will realize this guy's one of the better players in baseball.
Oh, yeah. And, he hits the good pitching. He's not afraid to take a walk, and he plays excellent defense. So, the ability will be matched. I think Freddie Freeman's ability will be matched, but I'm not sure about the leadership. And, again, playing for Oakland and switching coasts and playing for the defending world champions, it's a little different cup of tea, and we'll see if he's going to need some sweetener with it.
Yeah, a whole different world. I mean, he's playing in a place where no one even knew they were playing. I mean, so absolutely true. No one at the games, nobody knew they were playing, nobody watched them, so you're absolutely right. He was playing in complete shadows in Oakland. But he is a tremendous talent and really good defensively, which people might not realize, but a wonderful, as you noted, a defensive player. What team... Give me a surprise team. Give me a team that maybe people aren't talking about, who you have your eye on, you think could be a little better than people think this year.
Well, I don't know if, the White Sox are one of those teams that people don't know about, but they're a very good team. And,
yeah, I think it could be their year. I would pick them to go to the World Series this year. I think this is probably their year, I would think.
Yeah, they really, I think, possess a whole lineup of outstanding players, and I think they had that little problem with a really good pitcher in their bullpen, Kimbrel, who's now not in their bullpen, and he went to the Dodgers. So I look for the White Sox to really make a lot of noise this year. I know everyone is, and that's no surprise, but everyone else out there, I don't think you're going to see a lot of surprise teams. The good teams are going to be good. The bad teams are going to be real bad, and I think they're going to lose a lot of games. I think you're going to have 4 and 5 teams losing 100 games this year, and it'll be the strong will survive.
And the Dodgers are,
really
and your old club, because you're a Dodger for life, but your old club is just absolutely loaded. I mean, the lineup is just ridiculous.
It's almost boring. They're so good. The one thing about the Dodgers, though, coming out of this spring training, for the things that I've seen, is that their pitchers don't look as ready as you would want them to look. And some of them have had more innings and more pitches in the last few years because they've been in the playoffs and they've been pitching a lot, even with the shortened season. That even Buehler, who pitched the other night, who's such a spectacular pitcher, just doesn't look like the same pitcher. And that the group of young starting pitchers are going to be challenged, but they're going to have plenty of runs to deal with.
What do you make of the Giants after having such a crazy year, Bob? They lose key guys. They lose some real core guys this year. They have ability. They're slated to their numbers like 85. Okay, last year they come out of nowhere. Their number was like 82 last year, and they win all those games. They put up they win 107 games. I mean, what about the Giants this year?
Well, they have a different way of going about things, mainly with their analytics and their coaching. They travel 14 coaches, if you will.
They travel 14 coaches?
Yeah, they do it differently, Mike. They make sure that all the bases are covered. The guy who used to think that he had to wait in line to get batting practice has his own guy right there ready to work with him anytime he needs something. And it's a different model, and it worked so efficiently last year, 107 wins, like you said, that maybe they have something. Maybe they have something that's a different approach to doing things that actually works. Obviously, you have to do it more than 1 year before you're going to get anyone really buying in and believing it. But right now, Pacoda and the computers don't believe it. But we'll see what that human aspect of more caring for their players. See how that works in the long run.
And not a lot of household names, let's be honest. I mean, in that lineup, not a lot of guys that you would say, oh, this guy's this guy. When you're looking down at the big stars in baseball, you're not stopping the Giants for too many guys.
And last year they had a couple guys who seemed to be finished, their mainstays of Belton, Crawford, and even Posey, they seem to be kind of over their hill. Perform at an outstanding level. Now Posey's gone, but they still have a core of veterans that.
I mean, Crawford's a good player. We know Crawford's a good player. I mean, he had a good year last year. He's a good player. We know that. See, he's a very solid player. We know that. But and Posey's gone. Who's had a great career. But they don't have a lot of guys that you'd say, wow, you're afraid of this guy, you're afraid of that guy in the lineup.
No, they just mix and match and come at you from every direction. And once again, it worked so well last year that I'm looking forward to seeing how it does perform in year two.
I didn't realize that about the coaches. I wonder now tell me what you know about this. Where did this stem from, this idea of all these coaches? Well,
it was the creation there of Farhat, their president and general manager, and a young, exciting young manager who just said, let's make sure that everybody who needs something is provided whatever they need during a season. It's 162 games.
Wow.
These are all real special athletes, and we got to get them to perform at their highest level. And the way to do that is to make sure that they're cared for, if you will. And it's not like people holding the hand, and it's not going out to dinner to make sure that they're eating properly, even though from what I hear, their nutritional coach is very good. they just believe that more is better, and it's quite the travel squad. I'll tell you that.
That's fascinating. You know what? I haven't seen a lot on that, but you got a team last year. Very rarely do you have a team that goes 30 games over its projection or 30 games under its projection. Somebody might have a rash of injuries and they didn't have a good year. But, I mean, that's a team last year that was expected to win like 81 or 82 games, and they win 107. I mean, it's bizarre.
And they did it with confidence. They did it, thinking that they had the right formula, and it really did work. I was amazed.
Which one of these young managers do you like? Is there one guy that stands out to you of the guys who maybe hasn't gotten a lot of acclaim yet, who you think has got the makings of a really good baseball man?
Ooh, I might have to look at it again, but Cash is kind of young in Tampa Bay. I think he's, the cream of the crop. And, the other guys who are coming along and sharpening their teeth on major league experience. Some of the guys don't have a lot of experience, so seem to know what they're doing and seem to be adjusting to the new world of managing quite well. So we'll just have to take the step forward and see how they learn from the Bakers and the Maddens and the veterans and the Girardis who are out there. There's still a lot to be learned by these young managers, and the old vets are out there showing them the way.
Tougher to manage now or 10 years ago?
Well, I think, there's different skill sets that are required now than there were 10 years ago. Yesterday was cut day, right? Where that final cut, some guys get released. Some guys think they made the team and they go to the minor leagues. That used to be a tough day for a manager, and he used to linger with me for a while. When you tell someone that their dream isn't going to be fulfilled, the manager doesn't do that anymore. The general manager does that now. So that type of work isn't done by the manager of the players shuffling, if you will, the players movement. But there's a lot of like we say, if you have 14 coaches traveling with a team, that's 14 people that you have to manage as a manager.
Yeah.
So their job has expanded in a way where they have to make sure that the people who are involved with coaching and instructing and preparing your team are all doing the job that they are supposed to do. So
it's fair to say a manager now is going to have to adjust to and understand that there's going to be people between him and his players that maybe years ago there weren't anybody between you and your player. Now there's going to be other people in the mix, right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that idea of I'll go talk to him, that idea is gone. Now there's
in the old days, managers didn't like guys getting between them and their players, right?
Baseball organizations,
Right.
And you have to make sure they're all doing what they should be doing and making sure that you're not trying to do what they're doing.
Yeah, and again, in the old days, managers, you wanted to be the guy who you took care of your players. It was between you and your players. You didn't want other people interfering, right? You wanted it to be your voice.
Well, there were those days where it had to be your voice because there really was no one else,
right?
Who had the authority or even had the knowledge, if you will, who was around the team. You had your 5 coaches, and they all had their specific duties to do, but you had to do all the things that the coaches and the players needed. Now, there's a lot of help out there. There's really a lot of smart people who understand the game and are helping players be successful.
So in your mind, the Girardi, the La Russa, the Showalter, the Dusty Baker, all have had to understand that things are changed and they have to be more accommodating to let other people be in the mix now. There's even for those guys.
Oh, without a doubt, they're all doing it, and I think they're enjoying it. I think that they're being really good at what they're good at because they don't have to do everything. And again, it seems like it's easier, but it's not easier. It's just a little less work. You're still being expected to be excellent, though, at the things you're good at.
Thanks, Bobby. Enjoy opening day. We'll talk next week. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
Take care. Bobby V, out in L.A., absolutely. Enjoy opening day. And opening day for the Mets right now is tomorrow. We're taping this on a Wednesday. And the Yankees opener has been moved from Thursday, where we're still expecting inclement weather in New York, to Friday at 1 o'clock at the stadium. The Yankees and the Red Sox will have their opener, hopefully under sunny skies. Back with over-unders right after this.
You're listening to the Mike Francesa Podcast on the Bet Rivers Network.
Now make this baseball season more enjoyable with same-game parlays at Bet Rivers Sportsbook. Create your perfect combinations all season long as you bet on your favorite teams. Download the Bet Rivers app today. Must be 21. Playable in New York only. Gambling problem? Call 877-8-HOPE-NEW YORK or text HOPE-NEW YORK. That's HOPE, HOPENY. All right, wrapping up the baseball podcast. Remember, look for a special Masters podcast, which we will drop before the Masters is played. So look for that, too. We will have a Masters preview, Brandel Chambly, and some Masters predictions. I love the golf, and I can't wait for the Masters as I do. I promise over-unders as always. I'll give you overs and unders. The numbers, since I might have personally wagered on them, I'll tell you what I did, and then I'll tell you where the number is now. And the numbers are ever changing in these last couple of days. Under. I did Orioles under 62.5. I believe now it's gone to 62. I did A's under 70.5. They made the trade. The number is now 69. So, again, A's under, Orioles under. I was thinking about the Mets under, but the Met number was 91.5 last week. Now it's 88, so I'm not touching it. It's already down to 88. You're not getting any 91.5 anywhere. So, so Orioles under. Here's the reason why the Orioles under. The Orioles are going to play, 19 times against the Red Sox, the Rays, the Blue Jays, and the Yankees. That is impossible for a team with no pitching. They have a wonderful center fielder who I would have loved to be a Yankee. They have a couple of really nice bats in the middle of the lineup that can hit. Fine. They get up some games 5-0. They get a rally going here and there, but they have no pitching. And as the season wears on, they just can't win. They're going to lose over 100 games, and they're in a division where they play teams that have to beat them every night to keep pace. What did Bobby say? The team that beats the Orioles the most is going to have the advantage. You got 4 teams that are all together. From the Red Sox at, say, 86 or 88, up through Tampa, up through Toronto, up through the Yankees. It's all about beating the Orioles all the time. And then they have to go out and still play the other teams in the league. It's just too much to overcome. That's why I bet against the Orioles every year for the last 5 years. I've won every time. Until they beat me, I'm betting against them. A's have decided the season's a wash. It's over. They're going to keep trading people. They just made another big trade and traded away one of their key pitchers. They will continue to trade people away. They are rebuilding the team. They don't care if they win 60 games. They don't care if they win 55 games. The number is still high enough that it's a good number. I like the under on the A's a lot. Overs. White Sox, 91.5. When I bet it, I think it's 92.5 now. I bet the Dodgers over 97.5. It says here it's 98.5. I still like them over. I think the Dodgers will win 102, 103, maybe 104. I think they're the only team I can guarantee will win 100 this year. I'm not sure anybody else will. The other team that's going to come close to winning 100 is the White Sox. And then the Brewers over 89.5. The number's now 90. Either way, Brewers. So over White Sox, Brewers. Why those two? Here's why. Dodgers over. Why? Because I thought their number's going to be 103, 104, and it's 98 now. I'm still going over. I think 98 would be bad for them. I think they'll win over 100 games. And the other two, they're in divisions where nobody threatens them. The divisions aren't good. I don't care if the Central's gotten a little better against the White Sox. The bottom line is nobody's even 85. They're going to win 95 plus. The number was 91.5. White Sox could win 100. And the Brewers. So Brewers, White Sox, Dodgers over. Orioles, A's under 5 over-unders for the season. Remember, look for the Masters podcast. We'll see you next week. Check it out and look for the Mike Francesa Podcast at betrivers.com. Also, Apple, Spotify, wherever. I can stop now, and when someone says, hey, I heard your podcast, I say, where'd you listen to it? Spotify, Apple, YouTube, betrivers.com. Well, you know what? You can get it there and everywhere else. So keep listening. Keep looking for it. And remember, look for the Special Masters podcast, which will come your way by Wednesday evening. Have a good day.
Thanks for listening to the Mike Francesa Podcast on the Bet Rivers Network.